Okay guys, so I'm making this video because recently I had a couple come over to me whilst I was flying my drone. They were really quite abrupt and rude to start off with, and it was not a good situation to be in, but I actually managed to flip it from a hostile situation into one where at the end they said they were thinking about getting their grandson a drone. So I would say that was a huge success. So what I'm going to do is go over some key details, things I would recommend doing, and then tell you my story and say how it applied to me. It's happened to me before, not to this degree, and I just believe it's something that's important to prepare for. So I don't want to scare people, I just want to make them more aware it can happen, and just make sure you're prepared if it does happen. Okay guys, so the first thing and the most important thing to say is everybody's situation is going to be different. So although these are good guidelines, if somebody comes over to you and you fear for your life, you want to get out of there as quick as possible. Don't try negotiating with them. Okay, but generally people are going to come over with some quick remark, and you've just got to reply and do the best you can to get through the situation. So for me, the most important thing in this situation would be to have an in-depth knowledge of the law and to make sure you are flying safely in the first place. I would also recommend having a really positive manner. Even when someone's come over to you quite hostile, you should always reply as happily as possible. Another thing to consider is when you're flying your drone, you don't really want people speaking to you because you're operating an aerial vehicle. It can be potentially dangerous if you take your attention away from it. So if possible, I try to explain to them that it could be dangerous for them distracting me whilst I was flying, and see if they could wait for me to finish flying. If that's not the case, or if that doesn't seem possible to you, I'd try to either land the drone or make sure it's in a safe hovering area. Okay guys, and now with that said, I'll explain what happened to me. So I was flying my drone in a local park. I'd actually found a nice closed off area. It had a gate on each end of this pathway, and within the fence there was a lot of grass. So this seemed a really great place to take off, and because it was gated off, not a lot of people walked through there. So I took my drone off and I flew it over the trees in front of me. At this point, this couple came from outside the gated off area, walked over to me, and the lady said to me, "Don't crash that into my head." So at this point, obviously, this is really annoying for me. I've gone and found a nice, safe place to take off from, and they've come over to me and they're telling me stupid things like, "Don't crash this into my head." So now the first thing I've got to do is think about where the drone is. Ideally, I'd want to say to her, "I've got to concentrate on the drone. Can we talk about this later?" But clearly that was not going to happen. The next best thing would have been to bring it back and land it, but because she's told me not to crash it into her head, I didn't want to fly it towards us and then bring it out of the sky. So what I decided to do was find a tree I could hover above, fairly low over the tree, to make sure that any aircraft that were flying wouldn't be anywhere near my drone, and obviously if it did come out of the sky, it's not going to hit anyone. Now from this point, despite the fact I was really annoyed, I just smiled to her almost patronisingly, and I said, "Don't worry, I'll keep you completely safe and I'll keep the drone well away from your head." Now the man then snapped at me a bit and he says, "It looks like quite a big drone, is it legal to fly it here?" Now I was actually flying my Mini 2 at the time, so I said to him, "It's one of the smallest commercial drones on the market that you can fly like this, and yes, it is completely legal. It's 238 grams, which means it's below the 250 gram mark, meaning I can fly this close to people. So I can actually fly it over people's heads, I just can't hover it above them." Now at this point, because I had an in-depth knowledge of the law, I could confidently say this to him, and he simply couldn't argue a legal side with me. So when I said this, the lady then interrupted me and asked me why I flew the drone in the first place. For me, this is a really easy question to answer. I personally love photography and videography, so having something that I can fly and get different angles on can help me be more creative and help my passion grow. Now at this point I could see the lady was thinking, and she had started to change her opinion. I think when she came over to me, she had been quite fearful of the drone at first, and now she was beginning to get a bit more familiarity with it, and then she started asking questions about it out of interest. So does this drone have a camera in it? Can you film with it? And I started to answer all these questions. She then told me that she had a grandson who loved photography. So at this point I thought it'd be a really great idea to tell her that the technology is becoming cheaper and easier to get hold of. You might be surprised how cheap they are, and I would recommend getting one for your grandson. And then she started to consider it. So at this point we've gone from being completely hostile to actually understanding drones and maybe even thinking about getting one for her grandson. So they talked to me for a couple of minutes and then they went off their own way and I continued flying. And for me, this is a really great resolution because they're enjoying their day and I'm enjoying my day. Another thing to remember when we're flying a drone is that we're an ambassador for all drone pilots. So if I get angry with them and I snap back and the situation deteriorates, not only am I going to probably ruin my day and have to think about landing my drone and clearing off and maybe flying somewhere else or packing away for the day, next time they see somebody else flying a drone, they're going to have more confidence of going up to them and ruining their day. Whereas I believe now if they saw somebody else flying a drone, they'd have more understanding and they either wouldn't bother them or they would talk to them more pleasantly. So also while I was talking to them, I did explain to them that I came into this area because not a lot of people used it and it was a great place to take off and land from. And then she actually apologised to me for coming up to me and approaching me. Okay guys, so that's my advice if you get confronted. If you don't feel in danger, just to have a conversation with the people as politely as you can. Make sure you know what you're doing is safe and legal, and just try to be as friendly as possible. Okay guys, so as I said, each situation is going to be different, and had this gone differently, I might want to have considered getting my drone back and leaving, or if I felt really unsafe, leaving first and then getting my drone back. So these are just things to bear in mind. But as it happened, I think this is a really great resolution. Everyone's gone away happy, and in the future, I don't think there are going to be any problems for any other people flying drones. Okay guys, I was a bit skeptical about making this video. I don't know how people are going to respond to it, but I thought I'd throw it out there and see how it goes. I do believe it has a lot of value, but I would be really interested to know if this happens to you often. Do you get people approaching you whilst you're flying? And if you have any stories you'd like to share, that'd be great to see them in the comment section down below. That's it for this video, and I hope to see you in the next one.